Okay, so we've got pretty much the whole creature blocked out. We've got its primary forms done. We've got most of its muscles done in the secondary forms. It's not going to change now. We're not going to chop anything off. We're going to stop using Dynamesh now, and we're going to start thinking about it as moving towards the detailing section. So before we do that, what I'm going to do is going to make a low poly version. So I'm going to duplicate this one. So I've got two versions of the body. I'm going to hide the top one. And then what I want to do is make a decent ZBrush version of this one. So I'm going to go target polygon count, we'll call it 10,000, so 10. And then we can just ZBrush it here. But before we do that, we'll go BZ and we'll go ZBrush guides, and we'll draw a few guides onto the surface of where I want the topology to go. So I definitely want there to be some nice rings roughly around the eyes, definitely one around the mouth, definitely one around this big nostril area here, which it will do anyway. The symmetry's on, so it's working out both sides. I'd like one around that ear, and probably just indicate where I want the chest to go like this. It probably won't respect that, but it's worth giving it a shot. And then I want to make sure that these lines show it coming like around here like this. And then that will just give it like an indicator of where you want the topology to flow. So if you go into your geometry, look up ZBrush, you want to say make the adaptive size quite high and the curve strength almost all the way, and then ask it to then give you a ZBrush of the target of 10, which is what I popped in. So I've hit ZBrush now, and it's just going to calculate now. And then we just need to have a quick look to see if that's given us everything we want at the polygonal level that we want. And I think it has, generally speaking. It's higher than we would want for production. It's 40,000, not 15, so it couldn't make it in as low as we asked it for, but that's fine for this. We've got some, notice there that there's some good edge flow, and to test that, if you just go B and Z, and then we want Z modeler this time, so that's BZM, we can just put some loops in and just see where the loops fall. So if you basically do, hold down spacebar and go to poly group, and we want poly loop. So we can say, let's have a look where that does. So that's looping. Oh no, you see that didn't loop. So that was the one thing that I was looking at to see if it followed around the belly or not. So the next one I think does the same. So is it this one? Yeah. So that's looped nicely there. So let's just check the thigh, see if that's looping okay. Yep, so that's fine. Is it fine here? No. It's going off a tangent there, but that's okay. So mostly speaking, it's picked up nice, you know, generally nice loops, and it's always good to look for this kind of thing. This might well not do it. You see there down the arm, it's giving us a little bit of a what we call spiraling effect, and we don't want that. So let's see how far down we go before the spiraling stops. There you go. So not too bad. So have we got any decent ones on the neck? I don't think it did a good job of the neck. I don't think there's a loop there at all that we can use, so that would be a disappointment really. And this bit here is a bit of a mess, but that'll be sorted out with the projection. So anyway, the loops around the eye look good, or good enough, should I say. They're not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but without doing a retopology by hand, you're not going to get it to the level that you would want for production. But that's more than good enough, so we don't even need those at the moment. So Control W gets rid of them. And now what we're going to do is project the high onto the low. So we'll turn on the high. So we've now got two versions of the model in the scene. And we're going to take the lower one, which is 40,000, and can do Control and D. So it's now that times 4, so it's now 165. And then we're going to use project, which is up here, project all. If you don't know where that is, it's down at the bottom of your subtool palette down here, project. So just say yes, and then what it does is it brings the vertices of the lower poly one towards the positions of the higher one. So subdivide it again and do it again, project again, and it does the same. Now it's going to be like 600,000 now, and it'll take 4 times longer each time you do it. So this is obviously going to take a few seconds longer. And once that's done, we'll do one more and we'll go super high res with it. So this will be 2.5 million now, and now hit project. And they should be almost exact now, and you'll see that when this is calculated. And there you go. So just to see if we have definitely got it right, so I've turned off the wireframe there, Shift and F, and then the higher one we're going to delete it, but before we do, let's just move it, and we want to turn off symmetry and move it to the side, and there you go. You can see it looks almost exactly the same. The big difference now is that this one that we're working on has got really nice topology underneath. So Shift and D now comes back down the resolution. So I've got a low poly and a high poly. So I could in fact generate normal maps and displacement maps from that one. This one now is irrelevant. We don't need it anymore. So we just delete that. And now we'll only work on this one. But what we won't do now is we won't dynamesh again. So this is a good example of where you stop dynameshing. If you stop dynameshing, you'll lose all that work that you've done there. So now let's do a bit of detailing then. So let's change the color of the mesh a little bit. So I'll just go to a little bit browner. Not that that matters, but I just think it makes it a little bit different. I don't like what's happened on this neck, if you remember. It made a bit of a mess here, so I'm going to smooth that down and go down the resolution and smooth that down as well, and then we'll build that back up in a nicer way. And definitely wasn't looking, it was looking pinched and a little bit strange, really. So and I will want, eventually I'll want another resolution, so I'll want 10 million or more when it's finished, but depending on what I'm going to do with it. But this will do for now. So let's work around the head, and let's just do a little bit of clay build-up work in areas where it's just not quite right yet. So first one would be around the face and the lips. So let's just do a little bit of tidying around here now. So just using clay build-up and just working along wherever I want, either more detail, less detail, or I want to just change it. So under the chin itself is got enough volume, I think. If you're finding it hard to smooth it down, you're probably too high polygon, in which case you want to do a Shift and D and go back down one resolution. So I'm 10 million here at this particular point. So if I feel like it, you know, it's not working quite right, I'll go back down to 2.5 million. But at the moment, that's looking like it's, you know, going to be absolutely fine. We should be able to use it exactly like this. So building up these eyebrows again, like so. And then let's go and do the damn standard on the eyes again now, and we'll put some creases in here that look pretty cool. So bring it around the back of the eye, and then we want a nice ring underneath the eye like that, and then into the corner, and then a big one under the bag of, you know, this creature definitely would want bags under his eyes, and then crease of the mouth. Crease at the corner of the mouth. Let's put let's just go back to flatten, and we'll flatten this again, which is what we did in the early stages, like so. Flatten the bottom of the lip, and there you go, you've got a nice alien looking mouth. Still maybe a little bit wide, but we can live with that for now. Bit more volume on this cheek, maybe a few more muscles, indicating that there's a lot of work going on underneath, as in the muscles can pull this big old jaw. I mean, this is a great big jaw muscle here, so he has got this great big line of jaw. I quite like the way this creature's evolved, if I'm honest with you. Sometimes when you're doing these, you don't like them as you're working on them. but I think this one's got, you know, it's got some appeal. Have we got back face masking on? We have, yes, so we're not going to damage the back of anything, remember. And then what we'll do is we'll more volume under here, and then back to damn standard. Put some scoring under that, some shape into that ear, like so. I'm using the damn standard, but we're holding Alt there, so I'm adding the volume back on, and then start of the bark. So I want the big creases of the bark going in, and they all need to follow the flow of the skin coming off the head. Like so. Let's just do a few more over here. Right, into his nostrils there. So I'm putting some nasty detail in there. Bit of skin detail coming down over his mouth there. Let's have a look what that looks like from a distance. So not too bad. Perspective is on, so it's how we would want to see it. So let's just use the move tool, and we'll bring that jaw in a bit there. Bring this. I'm still not completely comfortable with this mouth. I still think it's way too big. So we'll bring it in. There we go. I'm liking that now. And bring that big old jaw in a bit. And those ears down. Yeah, happy with that. That looks better. Maybe push this back out a little bit even more. So we've got this big supporting neck here that really helps with the, you know, support the weight of these huge horn things. There would be big, huge back muscles. The trapezius muscle would be huge to be able to support that kind of weight. Low size. Let's build these muscles up and then smooth them down, build them up, smooth them down. Now here there would be some indication of the spine or the vertebra in the spine, so I'll just indicate it. This will be what they call a 7th cervical vertebra here, C7. If you ever damage your back, you'll soon learn about your C7. So just indicate that and then smooth that back down. There we go. Coming off the back down here, where there's a bit of complexity about here, and this is where your the trapezius comes up at the back, and then the rear head of the deltoid, this one, comes up here like so, and then the medial head is in the middle meeting that bit, and that bit is called your acromion process. And it's a little dip there at the top, and then this is the front head here. So the front head comes a little bit down the clavicle, about there. Then there's a dip called a fossa, and then it's the top part of the pectoral muscle here. If you get all that right and you can learn all that, then you'll get all this area looking right very, very easily. If you get that wrong, or if you don't learn that bit, then you'll start having problems up here, and your arms and your top area here just won't look right. So take your time and go and do some research on that area and get this looking right quite quickly. So bringing this round, biceps looking good. We'll put some nice veins on there once we've got this finished and we're starting to do the detailing. So he looks good. That looks fine. There you go. You've got some nice, not brilliant yet, but nice. Looks nice, even if we haven't quite got it defined quite well yet. This one here, the one I told you about before, is the teres major underneath that deltoid there, and then there's a bit of complexity here, which is the bottom end of the trapezius that I want to indicate. There's a little dip there. I'd like that to be in there. This is the back end of the trapezius, the triceps. We haven't really detailed those yet here, but big bulge here. That'll indicate it roughly where it is. And this bit coming down to the elbow in the middle, and then these big volume ones here. That looks fine. And now I'm going to move down onto his shoulders, but I've just seen something here that I want to do. So a lot of these animals have a flap of skin here, like this, and I want to get that in now, like so. So you'll see this on a dog. If you have a dog, have a look at the bit in front of the hip, and there's a piece of looks like skin, and it's basically just I don't know whether it's fascia or which is like a flat area of muscle, or whether it's tendon, but there's basically this skin flap here. I must look up exactly what it's made of. But it sits just like that there, in that little triangle down there. It always, certainly on dinosaurs, it makes it look quite realistic if you make sure you get that in. So especially when their legs are pulled backwards, this would stretch backwards onto the front here of the thigh. I'll just use the dam standard underneath to define it underneath, because it will go behind like that, maybe not as deep as that, like that. There we go. And then we'll just build that bit up, whoops, with clay build up, build the front up here a little bit. The ribs are looking fine. Do the same again that we did at the top with these muscles here, the trapezius, I keep saying trapezius, the back of the triceps on the lower limbs still needs to be the same as those top ones. And then this doesn't look right here, does it? So this chest looks too much like it's going in. So let's pull the volume down a bit here. So there you go. It's looking good, and it's that stretching is actually helping us. It wasn't intended, but it's worked rather well. So I'm going to carry on a little bit more. So we'll go down on the back of the legs. The feet are okay. There's a bit of sculpting on here, on the front of the feet. Making sure there's no silliness. I just don't want air. I don't want to later find out I missed something. So that looks good along there. And remember I said these muscles strap down, so you're trying to indicate that the muscles are coming along and round, so they come round and end here. So you've got to make sure you indicate that there, so it straps across like that. And in a way that's wrong for this kind of creature, because it all depends on whether you can do what's called pronate or supinate. So with a human, we can turn our wrists, and it's great for picking fruit, and you know, this is pronation and supination. Supination, pronation. Cat can do it a little bit, dog can't do it at all, horse can't do it at all because they don't need to. So they don't cross over in the same way on those animals. But so here we're doing a mashup of the muscle layout of a human or a primate and a quadruped. So this is probably the weakest part of this design so far, but it's, you know, we've talked about it, we've got a rationale. Well, actually we haven't got a rationale yet, but I'll make something up. But being aware of it is half the battle. You know, being aware that you've chosen that design, and what's the evolutionary need that's led to it doing that. That's something I would always ask my students, is why did we have that? What is it that led? Is it complete and utter fantasy, and not backed up by any science or any decent rationale? You know, and if you don't have a rationale, or you don't attempt to, you know, to find a rationale, then that's a weaker design in a lot of ways. A bit more skin over the top there. I'll add some nice wrinkles in here, but we'll use alphas for that towards the end of the project. I'm using F just to frame it. If you ever lose it off the screen, you want to, you know, you want to bring it back, it's just F to bring it back. Just using a combination of move there. Looks good at the back. Arm looks good. There we go. So we're well on the way with this design now. Everything from now would be finish. So everything would be, I would probably do a UV map now, which we can do in another video. We can work through that. We would, you know, carry on tweaking it like we are now, but we would then add in things like the surface detail with skin brushes and skin alphas. And again, if you want any of those, look at our resource hub, because there's tons of free stuff in there that can be used for that. And really then it's on to painting.